Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. We're breaking down the architecture of one of the absolute fastest blockchain ecosystems ever built, and the core problem they tackled is honestly fascinating. Imagine trying to coordinate thousands of people around the world to execute a job at the exact same split second, but literally nobody has a watch. It would be complete and utter chaos, right? Well, that is exactly the foundational problem Solana set out to solve. Now, just wrap your head around this theoretical peak. Over 65,000 transactions per second. When you measure that against older benchmarks, like, say, Bitcoin's 7 TPS, it is a mind-bending leap in speed. So how on earth did they actually pull this off? Here's our roadmap for understanding how Solana completely reframed the time problem. We'll be covering the blockchain trilemma, the time paradox, their 8 key innovations, the life cycle of a transaction, and finally, validators and staking economics. Section 1, the blockchain trilemma. To really appreciate Solana's breakthrough, we've got to look at the ultimate villain of decentralization. As we all know, the trilemma forces this painful compromise. You can only optimize for 2 of 3 things: security, decentralization, or scalability. Historically, networks just sacrifice speed to make sure the system stays secure and fully distributed. And you can see that historical bottleneck right here. Early networks had incredibly high security and decentralization, but their scalability was just abysmal. Solana's architecture, however, somehow managed to push that scalability up to 65,000 plus TPS without giving up high security, totally shattering that traditional bottleneck.
Section 2, the time paradox solved.
This is where former Qualcomm engineer Anatoly Yakovenko realized the entire industry was looking at scalability backwards. Traditional blockchains rely on local clocks, which means nodes are constantly arguing over loosely enforced timestamps. It's kind of like a massive chaotic group text. Yakovenko's approach, though, was to build a trustless mathematical clock natively into the chain itself. Going through the source material, this specific epiphany from late 2017 is what directly birthed the concept of proof of history. He basically hypothesized that if you could prove time mathematically, you wouldn't need to waste precious network energy constantly arguing and reaching a consensus on it. Oh, and just a quick, fun detour. As an Easter egg that really highlights their deep engineering culture, Solana's massive 2021 Series B raise was a deliberate mathematical nod to pi. $314.15 million. I mean, these guys are hardware and systems engineers down to their very core, and that DNA is deeply woven into the protocol itself. So how does this atomic clock actually work? Well, proof of history acts as a verifiable delay function. By starting with an initial input, computing a SHA-256 hash to get an output, and then feeding it right back into a continuous loop, it creates this completely unhackable timeline. Why? Because it takes actual physical time to run those continuous calculations. Section 3, 8 innovations of speed. Now, proof of history is really just the foundation. The founding team systematically solved 8 specific bottlenecks to build a finely engineered machine on top of it. While we can't deep dive into every single one today, let's spotlight a few major ones that literally changed the game. First up is Turbine. You can think of Turbine as a massive data distribution tree inspired by BitTorrent. Instead of a leader trying to send a gigantic chunk of data to thousands of computers all at once, it breaks the data down into tiny 1 kilobyte shreds and fans them out exponentially. It guarantees that blocks reach every single validator instantly without clogging up the network. Next is Gulfstream. This one entirely eliminates the dreaded mempool bloat you see on older networks by efficiently handing off data before the next leader even takes charge. Normally, pending transactions just sit there in a massive waiting room. Gulfstream removes that waiting room entirely by identifying who the next leader is and pushing the data directly to them ahead of time. Then there's C-Level, which builds in just incredible efficiency. Unlike older virtual machines that process transactions in a slow, single-file line, C-Level acts as a multi-lane highway. It allows thousands of non-overlapping smart contracts to execute simultaneously on multiple CPU threads. Basically, if transactions don't overlap, they don't wait in line. They just process at the exact same time. Section 4, Lifecycle of a transaction. To ground all this abstract tech, it's pretty fascinating to track the journey of a single transaction. You submit it, Gulfstream forwards it, C-Level processes it in parallel, the proof of history clock stamps it, Turbine blasts it out, and the validators vote on it. That entire journey, from submission to complete 100% irreversibility, takes literally 2 to 3 seconds. Just wild.
Section 5. Validators and Staking Economics.
Of course, none of this blazing speed matters without the hardware securing it. Because Solana scales almost linearly with hardware, running a node requires some serious computing power. We're talking 24-core processors and massive amounts of RAM. It relies heavily on raw, physical machine power.
But what keeps these super powerful validators honest? Well, to prevent bad behavior, Tower BFT uses exponential lockouts. Meaning, if you vote on the same fork 32 times, you're locked in for about 136 years. This mathematical trap makes switching forks or trying to cheat the system entirely irrational from an economic standpoint.
On top of that, the network uses a proof-of-stake economic foundation designed to balance rewards with deflationary pressure. It actually burns 50% of all transaction fees to counteract inflation during high usage. And since it's proof of stake, even if you don't run a heavy-duty server yourself, you can just delegate your SOL tokens to participate in securing the network. And if a validator does try to cheat the system, they face slashing. This is a strict financial penalty that permanently destroys a portion of their staked collateral. It's the ultimate line in the sand that keeps the whole ecosystem secure and honest. So we've seen how Anatoly and the team totally flipped the script. It really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? If reframing the time problem solved the blockchain trilemma, what other massive, supposedly unsolvable bottlenecks in the tech world are just waiting to be shattered by a simple change in perspective? Think about it. Thanks for joining this explainer, and keep questioning the limits.